Hello, this is the Provoked Prawn, and this is the Logitech G502 Lightspeed. This is an updated, refreshed and rejuvenated version of a previous gaming mouse from Logitech, which people thought was an utter classic. Now, this is an unboxing video to talk about what's in the box and discuss the highlights to this mouse. I'll be talking about the specifications and the facets of the mouse that I've really enjoyed so far. This isn't going to be an in-depth review. I'll be doing one of those in future. However, I will be covering everything from mouse design to the software that it comes with and the various settings within that. So if you're interested, you can stick with me and see what that's like. Now, this is a high-end gaming mouse that isn't terribly cheap. It is expensive. It costs around £129 sterling or over $100 for my American viewers. It is, however, a very interesting mouse that's packed full of awesome specifications and features. First of all, it has a max DPI of 16,000, so it's a high DPI mouse. But the main highlights probably are the wireless functionality and the fact that it's capable of up to 60 hours of continuous use on battery, which is just insane. It also comes with a multitude of customizable and programmable buttons and some weights that allow you to adjust the feel of the mouse in your hand and how it's used. Now, Logitech have designed this mouse to be as lightweight as possible, but they do have customization options in terms of numerous weights that can be added to it. So there are 4 2-gram weights and 2 4-gram weights that can be added underneath, and I'll show that in a bit. Also has, as I said, a multitude of buttons that includes the scroll wheel, which can click side to side, which I really like. So you basically got 3 buttons on the mouse wheel, because you can push it in, but you can also scroll side to side on that. Underneath, you can see the Logitech G logo. You can push that down and pull it out, and that gives you access to a small recess underneath the mouse, which allows you to both store the wireless dongle on there if you want to use that while you're out and about and don't want to lose it, but also have access to the back of that cover where you can then add the extra weights in. It's worth noting quickly as well that if you see where it says G502 Lightspeed, you can also pull that cover off and you can put the other weights in underneath there. So the 2 large 4-gram weights go where the G hub is, and then the other 4 go underneath the main bit. And you can put the weights in if you want to, or you can mix and match it depending on how you want it. So for example, I've just got the 2 large weights and I haven't bothered with the smaller ones. But obviously that's going to be a personal preference. Now, the highlights of the mouse, as I said, are these multitude of buttons. You've got easy access buttons down the side, and they can be programmed with macros or single key presses and set up in a multitude of ways. It also has that shift functionality that Logitech likes so much, and it is a really good function that basically means you can set different modes, switching into shift mode. And I'll show you that in the software a bit later on. Here you can see the little carry case for the weights and the weights themselves, and the wireless dongle and the adapter for that as well. And you can see it is a tiny little thing that could easily get lost, so it is good that it's got storage within the mouse, and you have that little carry case too. However, it is worth noting that the connectivity of this is actually very impressive. I haven't had any issues with disconnects or any problems with lag or anything like that. It connects really well and it works really well. It's an impressive little design. Here's a close-up of the 4G weight, a little 4-gram weight. And you can see it's a very high quality design even for that. And that's one thing about the G502 is it looks really nice. It looks like a really good mouse, really nicely designed. It did feel, when I first took it out of the box, it felt a bit cheap in the hand, especially considering the amount of money you're paying, but that's possibly down to the fact that it sheds so much weight. Logitech's tried to make this as light as possible, hence the Lightspeed, because it's able to move lightning quick and allows you to react quickly in game. However, it does sort of give that sort of cheap feel to it because it's so lightweight. But the ability to add these extra weights in obviously adds a bit more heft to it. And again, that's going to be a personal preference anyway. And it's these nice little features that make this mouse really appealing. Now, inside the box, you also obviously get the charging cable. It's a micro USB. Surprised they're not going for USB-C really. Braided cable, which I'm always a big fan of. And that's a decent size as well if you need to plug it in. It is, of course, not going to be plugged in very often considering the battery life on this. If it lives up to that 60 hours, that's obviously going to be remarkable. Now, someone that uses their mouse all day for work and then carries on gaming and doing things like making videos in the evening, having a lot of hours of usage out of your mouse is pretty important. Underneath, I didn't mention the power button, which you can turn it off and on manually. And you can see the rubberized feet with grip purposes as well. It seems that it's very comfortable on the surfaces. I've tried it on cloth and wood surfaces and it's just fine. It has a nice textured thumb rest to it as well. It's quite small compared to other mice I've tried, but it sits nicely in the hand. It's got this really sort of ergonomic, angry looking design. The multitude of G buttons are a definite highlight. The front ones next to the left mouse button, they are DPI switching buttons. That allows you to switch between 4 different DPI levels, which are customizable in the G-Hub software. You also note that little crosshead button on the front of the thumb rest. That button allows you to switch into the DPI shift button, which is essentially the same as the sniper mode on Corsair mice that I've tried. It's basically a low DPI on the fly button that you can press and hold to put a lower DPI on for accurate shooting. You can see here as well, as you cycle through the DPI levels, you get a light that tells you what level you're on, gives you an idea of what you're doing. You customize the lighting again within the software. There's lots of customization options there. Now, the highlight to this 502 mouse is not only this sideways click, but also the dual setup of the mouse wheel. Now, you can have it with this tactile feedback where it makes the noise and clicks every time you spin it, or a noise-free ultra fast mouse spin, which is insane for scrolling and browsing in Windows, and obviously has its benefits within gaming as well, depending on your personal preference. It is superbly satisfying to just flick and watch it spin though. And it goes and goes and goes, a bit like the battery life. I've seen that functionality before on previous Logitech mice, and I must admit it is really nice. It's nice to see, it's quite unusual. Now, there are 11 programmable buttons in total. Obviously, you can set up these buttons the way you want. They have default settings to do various things, as you'd expect. Back and forward when browsing in Windows, DPI changing levels, obviously the mouse changing functionality, all your standard the shift buttons and whatnot, but you can set them to whatever you want. You can set up macros within the software, change and customize until your heart's content. You can obviously also change the DPI levels and the settings there, and you can go up to 16,000 as your top DPI and 100 as the bottom. Close-up view of the front of the mouse, and you'll see the micro USB connection, which is easy enough to slot in when it needs charging. And you can see the RGB lighting on it is fairly understated. We basically only have the logo on top and then the DPI level indicator at the side. And there are other things you can do with the lighting, like get it to change colour when your battery is running low, which is obviously pretty cool. As you can see from a close-up of the mouse, this is very much a right-handed gamer mouse. It's not really designed for left-handed gamers, which is probably a shame because those guys are going to miss out on what looks like a fairly awesome, very comfortable and extremely flexible gaming mouse. It is remarkably expensive though. I've seen mice with similar capabilities for a lot less. And diving into the software, you get an overview of what that's like and all the different things you can do within it. As I said, you can change the lighting, both primary lighting in terms of the DPI switching and of the logo, and you can set it to fixed or various effects and get it to sync with other things. Now within the assignments, this is the interesting bit for me, you can basically set up and assign buttons to every button of the mouse, but you can set up different actions, different keys, you can set up macros, you can set it to launch specific things or carry out specific actions. You also have that G shift functionality, as I said, so you can set a different button press for when you're in that mode or a different action for when you're in that mode. Within the software you can also scroll and see which buttons you're actually changing. So you get a different viewed angle of those, but you can do all sorts of things. So you can see here that you can set up actions within Discord or OBS for specific buttons and all sorts there. Also, you'll note you can change the DPI sensitivity levels, so you can set the maximum levels as there. As I said, there are 4 different main levels and then the DPI shift, which is basically sniper mode level as well. So you can set all of those to the levels that you want, right from 100 DPI to up to 16,000, which is just insane. Set them in increments, obviously tweaking to your heart's content. Now, as I said, there are 11 different programmable buttons. That allows you to have a lot of customization options within this. So for testing purposes, I just set it up so you could see what this would be like. And I thought it'd be fun to play around with the mouse wheel. So we've got that left and right click. You can see the list of different actions and commands here. You can even do things like closing windows, opening new tabs, scrolling between windows, anything that requires double button presses. You can set it up to do a single press on the mouse wheel or mouse button to then carry that out. Obviously this sort of action in game is really powerful. Here I've set it up so that left press on the mouse wheel to the left is copy and then a right is paste, so you can see how quick that is and how effective that is. So you can obviously set that action to whatever you want and copy and paste. If you're doing a job where you need to do that, then it might work for you in Windows, but you can obviously also do something in game. So for example, if you use the left click as R, reload in FPS games, and the right as F for use, then obviously that means less movement of your hand on the keyboard. You don't have to take your fingers off WASD or even move around very much with that, and you could set up a multitude of different things. Those are just examples. There are plenty of other things you can do, whether you're setting up macros to mash various keys or carry out constant actions. If you're an OBS user, you can set up and record, set up so your button press starts recording or stops recording or starts broadcasting or mutes various sounds. There's loads and loads of flexibility in there. So all in all, as you can see, the Logitech G502 Lightspeed is a powerful piece of kit, a potentially fantastic mouse. It does come with a hefty price tag, but you are getting what you paid for. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Please consider liking, commenting and subscribing to let me know what you thought, and come back for more in future. Cheerio!